upgrading that and so forth. So there's a lot of improvements that would be needed. Now, we know that there was a lot of discussion on who uses the park. Primarily the healthcare center patients, part of the recovery and the serenity, the aesthetics coming into the recovery-based facility is very important to all of us. They primarily use the walking trails. The other parks are used primarily by parts of the parks by Trempealeau County residents. The high schools, or I don't know what age the groups are that play ball out there, they primarily use all that, all of that stuff. We've never had any participation in scheduling, charging, marketing, nothing like that. So what we did is we got some ideas together, and what a partnership, if we want to look at continuing this with a memorandum of understanding with costs and so forth. Now with costs coming forward, of course, that's the portion from the Parks Committee would be tax levy dollars. So that's a budget concern, for this organization. So that's in a nutshell, if I've explained it, pretty thoroughly, and where do we go from here?
I did try to watch some of the PTED meeting from the last time, and I didn't watch the whole thing. It was quite a long meeting. But I did hear some questions being asked about like the property also. I think there's 525 acres and I totally understand the history of that, and that it was a farm and that people worked it and all of those types of things. But when I was listening to that conversation, I felt like one of my responsibilities for constituents is to understand how all of the property within the county is being used and what those dollars are being put toward. And I'm not looking to want to take away from anyone, but I'm also feeling responsible on the taxpayer side of things when we talk about levies. So for me, the conversation about the parks kind of opened the door to the conversation about some of this other property. And I don't know if that's something that we can explore further also, or if that needs to be a separate discussion from the memorandum of understanding, but I kind of feel like they go together. So I guess I'm looking for other people's thoughts. I see head shaking, but I don't know what other people's thoughts are.
I really don't understand how the healthcare center how the healthcare center, is that offered as a nonprofit, a profit? I mean, there's farmland rental, obviously there's services provided that get paid to the healthcare center. So how does the budgeting work for the healthcare center?
So in the presentation, you'll be seeing me and Lori present some of that to the full county board this coming month as soon as I get that ready. I did that once a few years back. But what happens is that the Trempealeau County Healthcare Center organization, which we have 14 buildings, 10 of those that I hold the license for. And what happens is that we are nonprofit, and we take no tax levy dollars from Trempealeau County. We've got about 67 contracts, 67 of 72 counties across the state of Wisconsin that brings in the revenue. The farm itself, there was a resolution with part of a donation and part of a purchase, one in 1898 and one in Lori help me, were they all 1898 with a mission and philosophy for the farm for continuing support for the healthcare center.
So that resolution has never changed since 1878?
Not that I'm aware of.
98.
98.
And that was when the care of the folks who are receiving care at the healthcare center looked significantly different.
Oh, yeah, and they
Correct.
were, yeah, it was a,
They were working on the farm
Mhm.
Well,
essentially.
the care, I wouldn't say the care has changed, the farm has changed. The care of the residents hasn't changed.
No.
Well, the
farm-
programming for how, yeah.
In regard to the farm has changed.
Okay.
With even the last few years, the program itself has intensified to to an extent with a lot of interdisciplinary team strategies and professionals to even shorten the length of stay from years to weeks. So this is why, and we're a third of the rate compared, when you look at $375, minus the grant. We're a grant recipient for mental health services for Wisconsin, and we give a discount to every county who uses us on a daily basis, compared to over $1,600 a day for a state hospital bed. So when you look at those numbers, that's why we continue to strive to do what we do to provide that service across the state and so forth. With the farm itself, the farmland is rented out. The healthcare center holds the stewardship for the farm, and many of those funds are put back into improvement for that farmland, such as if we need to put fencing up, which we have, if there's testing for the soil when the contracts come due and stuff like that. So there's a lot more to it than just holding on to the land.
Jean, do
Say
you have a
that.
question? It looked like her box.
Jerry, what's the annual rental that on average, what's the total amount you get for renting the land? What's that amount to? I mean,
Something per acre.
Oh,
I would say 80 to 100,000 per year approximately.
So in theory, those dollars that you're putting back into the property, the 525 acres that you have, right, under the healthcare center, the $80,000 to $100,000 should be sufficient to fund, I would think, all of that property. No?
That is if the organization, again, wants to continue a partnership. We need to look at that differently, because it's really no different than when we were trying to partner with parts of the courthouse for say the food pantry, the electric bill. We got some funds for 1 year, and all we're asking is, hey, pay half of it as a partnership for a program. Okay, with that being said, 1 year was like, well, you guys can afford it, so no, we're not going to pay it. Yes, the healthcare center does very well. So if this board would like us at the healthcare center to continue the stewardship of that park, we can do that. Again, that would dissolve the memorandum of understanding. Again, saying that park, again, which Lori did some really good research, because even with all of the buildings and stuff out there, which I didn't know, we reimburse the courthouse for all the insurance. So it actually sits on our books for the insurance. So if the shelter should be blown down by a tornado, that's our, again, we go under the courthouse, but we actually reimburse for those insurance rates.
And just to clarify too, the farm, there is a separate farm financial from our Trempealeau County Healthcare Center financial. And so the farm, there is a financial that reflects all the revenue that comes in from the farm through the rental and all the expenses that are taken out of the farm. So the expenses that the farm land pays for is being paid for directly from farm revenue. It is not from care of residents / Trempealeau
Right.
County Healthcare Center revenue. That would be improper because of the contracts that we hold with the different counties and Medicare and Medicaid funds.
Sure.
So that is kept very separate. The farm land that is designated still as farmland, the park being part of that, is truly run only under that farm financial. And so the expenses that we would pay for the improvements or upkeep of that park truly would come only from farm revenue. So it would be based, it's a budgetary matter. So if our revenue stays the same, we can still continue to improve. If the revenue would drop, or if for whatever reason something happens, that would affect the improvements that we would be able to pay for. We cannot use the healthcare center financial towards those expenses.
And that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
So, go ahead.
Stable is that fund? What, I mean, is that growing? Is that decreasing? Is it a stable fund? How much money's in that account?
For the
I mean,
land?
100K is a lot of money, 80K is a lot of money.
The
Every year.
farm,
Yeah. So has that been accruing over the years into a sizable amount, or what's in that fund?
it's stable. It's not, I wouldn't say it's accruing. We do have expenses out of there. We do allocate salary time for the management and maintenance, to upkeep the land. There is, through our board action, there is a mechanism where if there are funds, for the farm, that can be, based on the history of it, that can be used towards programming at times, and based off of approval from our board. So I would say it's very stable. I wouldn't say it's accruing, but that's a budgetary matter, right?
Yeah, it's
So
a balancing
right,
thing,
it's
yeah.
very much a balancing act.
Okay.
And we understand that there's, with the PTED committee, there's a lot on your plate as far as, even on your agenda today of, budgets and looking for funds for certain things for improvements in other parks. Again, we're just coming to the table, where do we want to go? The healthcare center's all about, partnering. Again, if this memorandum is not revised and so forth, again, we are fine with that because we would continue the stewardship of that, and we would that would give you more leverage in other areas that you want to improve.
Stacy, what was the feeling of your committee? Because you all met like a couple days after we met last month on where do you all stand?
Generally, we felt that keeping things the same and possibly dissolving the MOU would be the easiest route to go, and it would keep the consistency for the healthcare center and what they've been doing with the property and the park so far. And then we also saw if PTED decided to, okay, we're gonna list this as a county park, we're gonna do reservations, set up that whole system, then that's where the partnering would come in as far as expenses. But yeah, overall, we definitely got the gist that if it just all stayed with the healthcare center, that would be something we'd be in support of too.
Okay.
And it would change no one using it.
It would just
But
be
I-
the status quo.
Right, which I guess, you guys, I didn't even know it was a park that could be used by
Yeah, we hear that a
county
lot.
residents,
Yeah.
right? So I don't feel like that's a really great option because it is supposed to be a county park. It's a very nice and well-kept facility. You guys do a great job with it, but it's really underutilized, right? People don't know they can use it. So then you have to wonder from a stewardship perspective for the county residents who live here, shouldn't we be doing more with it? Shouldn't we be offering it as an option to people who don't know that it is an option? And then I get it, because now if we start doing that, then I do understand your position about the maintenance, because the maintenance costs would increase if usage increases, et cetera. So I do understand that. I guess what does everyone else think? I don't think the status quo is the right answer.
With me, I could see both sides of it. I think, yes, if the DLM and/or we took it over, yes, there would be more maintenance added to it, but I think it would kind of pay for itself in the tourism dollars and stuff, in a way. Yeah, we might have to foot some of the bill, but I think just the tourism aspect, maybe Mr. Carlos can kind of add to that, might kind of even it out, but it might almost make it worth it in a way. The tourism aspect on it.
what would it do for your team to take responsibility for the park? And when I say that, I hope maybe you would be open to continuing to use your staff, Jerry, to mow the lawn and all of those things. But maybe we help fund that if we take it over. Say we change how we're doing this now.
We would need more tax levy dollars to fund all this. Bottom line, and if so, I mean, I don't know what the healthcare center staff rates are. That information's unavailable to me. But you know, if we were to use our own staff, which would take away from maintenance of Petrick Park, you know, maintenance, equipment, labor, all that kind of stuff, just for landscaping, and it would be at least $5,000 a year added to the budget, and then of course, you know, whatever maintenance to the buildings. And I think one of the things too is there's how DLM staff views certain aspects of that park. The facilities is very different than what the healthcare center sees. I just think we view things very differently from facilities and how to approach things.
Like what?
The value of how to approach the pond and the value of bullheads in a pond, the approach, different views on what is a safe deck, things like that. So there's very different views on those kinds of things from my understanding.
Reed and I went out, gosh, probably 6 weeks ago now, and we did kind of an informal inventory, and the deck doesn't just need, you know, a coat of paint and whatever. It appears to be warped and not structurally sound in some places. We're not experts. And the other thing is the deck overlooks a pond that has seen its better days many decades ago. And, you know, there's a whole question of, you know, what to do with that. I don't think that's a simple thing. I don't think there's like an easy fix. And, you know, there's a question of if that pond was restored, what would it be restored to? And, you know, just from a department perspective, sure, you know, we're in the parks business. We're also in the land management business. And if we're going to take this on, you know, Mike mentioned there's a lot of resources that would need to go into it, additional dollars. And that is why we started having a discussion about, well, where would revenue potentially come from? I mean, after all, we are the Department of Land Management. I think we could manage some county land effectively and, you know, use that revenue source. But the park is kind of rough, and it's, you know, the question is if we were going to integrate that really into the park system, you know, what does it look like? What improvements are needed? What is the ongoing cost? That's the issue.
Well, and a bigger issue is that people don't even know it's available to them. So if we, you know, I could, in my head, I'm envisioning, okay, the healthcare center could do ... The parks could do this, like advertise the park, get it on our website. You know, there is room for both of us to do different things, but we would almost need to have a ginormous grand opening to invite the public to a county park that they don't even realize is a county park.
Right.
You know, and a part of me is like, I don't want to just give away a park. We did that once when the county board, way before my time, sold Crystal Lake Park to Strum for $1. You know, and that's like an amazing place that's always full and always busy and on a lake and on a river. And
So
I don't know. I'm in such a quandary about this. I just really, to be honest.
So I feel like the answer is that we need more information. Number one, like I don't think we're going to solve this issue here.
Oh God, no.
So continuing to bring it back to our PTED meeting isn't very effective. I think that we need to actually form a group, review all of our options, probably maybe look at finances, understand if we could, I guess the easy answer for me, and it's easy because I don't know enough about it, right? So everything is easy when you don't know both sides. But for me, the easy answer is, okay, we have a park out there that, yep, we really probably should be taking responsibility for, continue to let Trempealeau County use it to its fullest potential. I think that makes great sense. It's a great asset for them, but then there is also dollars available to fund that additional expense through the farm land that maybe would also have to be adjusted to accommodate for that.
A couple of questions that I would have along those lines as well is just things like, you know, how is it being used today correctly? Like, are we, who's doing that scheduling? How is the community using it? Some of those kinds of things. You know, and my math is likely off here, but if we have 520 acres, 525 acres, I guess, is that like $190 an acre? Is some of that hunting land? You know, what's the information behind that?
That 500 is not the park. That's the,
Correct.
that's the
Correct.
farmland.
Understood.
Correct.
Understood. But it's still a question.
That's the land that's leased, right?
The rental is the land that's leased. The park is not leased.
Does the property committee have any involvement in all the property that's owned by the if the county owns it, but you're there? Is the property committee involved at all?
No.
Well, the property committee, because even when the sheriff's department and the highway department was looking for some land, the property committee was involved, yes.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
Okay.
But I think we need to really go back to it's all fine and dandy here when we're looking at advertising and all that kind of stuff and so forth. But we have to also look at this as a park that sits right next to a regional state-of-the-art mental health facility, okay? And, you know, so we have to be cautious about recovery and treatment because we all know that this facility, the stigma has been removed through decades of striving for excellence. Whether some people think else, you know, think otherwise. Our 18 to at times 90-year-olds are very much, the serenity, the tranquility is very important. So we don't have the problems that I hear other parks have, you know, with the destruction and stuff like that, because we do monitor it very closely. So, you know, management and so forth can be quite challenging. We don't charge. Our mission and philosophy is we don't charge for the kids using for the ballparks and stuff. We don't charge for people if someone wants to use the shelter. We don't charge for anything in the park. We as the healthcare center stewardship take care of that to promote use of the Trempealeau County residents. We actually are looking at, we're just waiting for, decisions to be made because we've had plans for putting signage up there for quite some time, but, you know, that has not went forward for use.
Jerry, we can't really have it both ways. We can't have it be a park that's available to citizens and not, and then your concern is, well, what about our residents? Will the citizens that use the park affect the health and well-being of the people that are at the healthcare center? I feel like that's a
They haven't,
conflict
though.
for you.
I mean,
Yeah,
no,
because nobody uses it. Rarely does it get used.
people use it more than what you think.
Okay.
Yeah, they really do. When you see all the ball games out there and when you see some families stop and they walk the trail and go to the shelter, it's used more than what
Right.
people
And
think.
I get that you aren't going to charge for walking on the dog trails, but it's a loss of revenue if we're not renting out the ball field or the shelter. Not that it has to be, $100, whatever, but I don't know the answer to this problem because we are always like right here. We can't get in the middle. And it can't, when I talked about, well, let's just have everything come back to us and we'll manage it as a park, and then the response is, well, it's sitting on healthcare center land, so you'd have to deed it back to us. I mean, it's all so complicated.
Go ahead, Lori.
Thank you. I think yes, definitely it's complicated, but it's definitely a big property. So there may be enough opportunity for us to use it in several different ways, but I think that you're absolutely correct in the fact that we just really need more information. I think it's a great idea that you've got this presentation for the entire board, but we need more of that, I think, to make a good decision for all of the people that we represent here, because it's certainly not just our idea, it's the idea of the people of Trumbull.
I know that.
And I agree, and I love your idea about a smaller committee, because we haven't gotten anywhere, like maybe 2 people from property, 2 people from here, and 2 people from your committee to get together and figure out
And
what
I
we want to do.
Completely agree, because it impacts so many different
Right.
things. And even though I know that it was the memorandum of understanding that came to the table, it all comes down to dollars, right? And it does feel like that expands our picture a little bit, to consider revenue sources to be able to manage that if indeed it were to change how it's been done now, which I think does put out there the farmland, which is being rented out.
Do you have something to say?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think a smaller group to look at this would be, I don't know, your thoughts, Stacy? You're the chair of the committee, correct?
Yeah, and I think, getting more information, because I think, like, the committee here needs to keep in mind that if we're gonna bring more to the county and take this, some of the responsibilities from the healthcare center, then the money's gonna have to be there too.
Right.
And I think that's probably gonna be the biggest factor from what I've been seeing and discussing with other people involved in this. I do agree with Jerry where that park is very much utilized by the clients of the healthcare center, and I don't think people fully realize the facility that we have here. Going to WCA events, everything else. If you talk to anybody else, their healthcare centers are always asking for more money, and it's just a completely different
I
situation.
know, we are so dang lucky.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, it's a wonderful facility.
Yeah, we're
And it's
very
not-
blessed. Yeah.
No tax
And it's
levy,
profitable.
and it's very, and you're
Which
paying
is
off your own bond,
fantastic.
so,
Yeah. Yeah.
What, 4 years in advance? We just
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
off
I mean-
last year?
yeah.
Yeah, like Lori,
Well,
Lori
and
does an
working
amazing
with
job, yeah.
67 other counties
Yeah.
that are currently
Right.
involved. I mean,
72 in the
that's a
state.
huge, that's a huge thing. But I just think that each and every one of us have a responsibility to understand what is that all made up of, so that we can properly explain it. Not that we want to even change anything or do anything different, but I need to know the information, and I think other people kind of feel the same way. You just need to be able to speak intelligently about everything, the whole picture, not just pieces of it.
I also, about the condition of the park, I believe that, I know there's certain members of the healthcare center, if I've talked to their board, they say it's a matter of opinion. I don't think the deck is horrible, but it
But-
definitely needs some work.
It's like
For
been there
sure.
for 50 years,
So,
Right.
some people say it's,
hasn't it? It was built for
70
Farm Progress Days, 79.
so it's almost 50 years old, so it's
So-
understandable.
I appreciate, Jeannie, your point earlier on, in your mind, you're seeing a column here and a column here between and actually we kind of have we've been working on one of those.
Okay.
And the focus more on the healthcare center side is aesthetics, right? Not functionality necessarily. The main focus. It's more aesthetics stuff. Functionality is more of your Trempealeau County resident usage of
Right.
it. The courts and what have you. So to be fair, you guys have a beautiful park, your Petrick Park. That's not what we do. So we're more looking, in all these years, we've more looked at the aesthetic part of it, to be welcoming onto our properties, recovery for our residents, and visitations of families. That's been our focus more so than functionality, which
Right.
is what your guys's, more of what your guys's focus
And
is.
in-
So that's why, that's just not what we spend our all of our time on.
Right. And in my little social work brain, which turns on every now and then, what a great opportunity for intergenerational activities with your residents going to softball games and, you know, meeting people, walking. I mean, I know there are,
They do, yeah.
you know, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. I'm big on bringing generations together instead of us all living in our silos
And I
and
don't
blaming
think
each other for
I
our
don't think anyone
wrongs.
wants to necessarily change the business model at all,
No.
but I think we just want to understand it
Right.
a little bit better, and then determine if, you know, if there are things that we should be supporting and doing a better job of supporting,
Right.
or if there's things that we should just not be involved in whatsoever. The programming of that is obviously critical.
I think-
It's super important, but
I completely agree, Lori. I have no real ideas about where to go with this because I don't think we have enough information. But I mean, I think we don't want to take away the aesthetics and what you have for the residents who are in your institution. But then it begs the question to me of, should it be a county park? Does that even make sense, right? So like, I just want to understand all of it. So I guess in order to move the meeting along, I'd like to make a motion
Go for it.
that we go ahead and form a subcommittee to further explore the county park, and potential funding sources. I think we have to understand the finances of all of the aspects between what's happening with the additional acreage, and what is feasible here for our taxpayers, right? So I'd like to include the property committee, exec finance committee, healthcare board, and this committee. Subcommittees are a few members from each of those to meet and further discuss.
Oh my God, that's a pretty long
I know.
motion.
I have
Can
to
you-
like,
Can you put it in Cliff Notes?
yeah. I'd like
Do
to
you
make
wanna-
a
do you wanna-
motion.
Do you want to specify that it's the Farm
need
Progress
ex-
Park, not, you said park?
Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Do we need exec finance?
What committees do we need?
I don't, I guess we wouldn't have to. We could potentially go
We
there
could
if we
bring it
needed
to them
to.
if we
What
need
about
to.
property committee?
Yeah,
Yes,
she
property,
did
I
say
think, yeah.
property.
I'm sorry, Jerry?
It's just, in our world, we critically think and make decisions, so. All I'm saying is I'm seeing this as going to go further, and I respect that, you know, as far as how far down the road before decisions are made, when we have decisions that need to be made.
Right, but this committee can't make a decision for everybody, and that involves property and it involves your
Well, I'm
committee.
talking the simple thing of,
Jeannie, this
The
is
toilets.
Jean. We have to have a point of order.
Okay,
Dawn we have a motion on the floor. You need a second before you can continue
Thank
for
you.
discussion.
thank you.
Would you like me to rephrase the motion?
Yes, because it was pretty long.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to create a subcommittee to further explore options for the Progress Days Park.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. I'll, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Wow, thank you. Is there more discussion? Jean, do you have something to say? Okay, she's good.
Things.
If, I will say, if the immediate issue on the table is what we do with the toilets, and we need to address that because that's a safety concern, is there a way to go ahead and collaboratively deal with that issue while we are exploring the rest of the questions that we have?
My understanding was from the last meeting that that wasn't an immediate and urgent issue, is that correct?
initially it was an immediate issue, and then at the last meeting, it wasn't an immediate issue. And there is 2 of them that are out of order, 2 are in working order. And at multiple meetings, the healthcare center has agreed to demo that, and then someone would need to pay for a porta potty. But as far as, is someone going to go into half of that toilet, and is it going to cave in? From what I am told from collaborative maintenance director here and maintenance director there, no. So you are correct. It is not a critical issue that has to be dealt with right now.
And I spoke with Jeremy last week and he was working on bids. Yes?
I just, question for Rick. Creation of this committee needs to be created by the county board, correct?
Board chair technically speaking to the subcommittees. This could be a recommendation to really needs to go to property and to board of trustees to agree that this would be a good idea to do.
So we've agreed, the other two committees have to agree, and then John would,
John would appoint.
would appoint two people from each committee.
I'm upstairs right now, volunteer now.
Well, he'll be told once, you guys meet not long after we meet, correct? Okay, in the property committee, I don't have their agenda, but
I can appreciate that it's probably frustrating to continue to come back to the meetings repeatedly. I completely understand that. But I also feel like I have a responsibility to the constituents to understand
Right.
before I can make recommendations.
and it's really I think we look at, do we let go of the park as far as, dissolving it as a park? Do we work cooperatively? Does it go to the healthcare center? Or is there something else? And just like when we had our ad hoc committee, we met 7 months and we didn't all agree and we hammered out a really nice proposal. And that's what I'm hoping that we can do here.
My clarification, Jerry. Currently, the park is an asset of the healthcare center, and it's totally maintained by the healthcare center.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And if you'd like a list of the duties of all of the things.
I get a feel.
Okay, yeah. And just a little history, the healthcare center has, invested tens of thousands of dollars over the last decades into the park, again, because we support that park. It is a Trempealeau County park. So, and I appreciate the, forming the committee and seeing what we can do. I just like things moving faster than.
You should know better. This is county government.
I know. I was with the state for 10 years, remember?
Yeah, me too. Well, more than 10. Okay, so great. You'll bring this to your committee, and then I'll get to the property committee and see what's going on. So we have to vote on this motion. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're still working. This is a work in progress, and when it's done, it'll be the best thing we could ever have done.
Like the administrator like that.
Okay. I'm back to the agenda here.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
This, I'm throwing it over to Mike, staff realignment project, discussion, possible action.
Yeah, this is essentially the formal request from what I mentioned at the last meeting. In your packet, you will. I'm trying to zoom. I'm zoomed in too closely on my computer here. At the request here is the formal request to realign some positions, to retain employees and be more effective in our programming. The core of this on the PTED side is revising Reed's current position from Parks and Conservation specialist. That's where a part of his job is conservation and part of it is Parks and Recreation, and making that 100% Parks and Rec coordinator. So essentially that kind of redefined position would manage the park, manage the snowmobile trail program, and then also develop events and programs at county parks, and would help out with social media promoting tourism. And that position would be under immediately supervised by Dave. So that's the PTED side of things. And then because this relates a little bit to the land management budget, because Reed's current position is listed in the land management budget, we're requesting that position move from the land management budget to the parks budget.
So you go from your budget to our budget, basically.
Well, ELU budget.
ELU budget to PTED budget, if you think about it in those terms. And the whole idea here is we'll have a more, instead of having a position split doing parks, park conservation, we have 100% dedicated to Parks and Rec. There's a close relationship with tourism and economic development.
Sorry, everyone.
turn off your computer?
Sorry, I was gonna try to pull up the reorg chart.
I know, I
And
was
that-
looking for it and I can't find it
If you turn
either.
off your sound, that might,
And then we can share it.
well, I can, actually, why don't, yeah,
Sorry about that.
yeah, I'm sorry, that was my bad.
I'm sorry, you're on probation until you shape up.
Let me go to the, I should have had this up sooner.
I have it up. Well, I don't know, never mind, I'm not in the meeting though.
Yeah, I'm going in. But a bottom line here, I think it realigns things, so we have people 100% focused on parks, recreation, and tourism. And I think that's a good thing.
Mike, I tried to go through that spreadsheet a little bit on the budget stuff. And for clarification, so Reed's full-time now, but part of it is his whole budget just go with him? And that we would need new money to pay for this new parks person then through the county tax levy? Or how do we pay for?
We pay for it by taking Reed's position and moving it from the land management budget to the parks budget.
So we bring that
You're
financial
getting
support,
more money.
and then he goes into another position that was open?
Yes.
Okay.
That's currently open.
And
Got it.
there would be no replacement then, no additional hire on top, so.
And Reed, if I can speak for Reed, he really wants to be full-time conservation. Because you're gonna help me with my buckthorn.
I know what I did. Here you go. Mute. All right.
Turn off your mic.
It's not.
I'm turning off mine.
Where is it?
Share screen, is that down there? I don't think people can still hear.
All right. Now I think. Share screen. Where'd it go?
I can hear a pin drop waiting for you to be successful on this. So while he's doing that, I don't understand.
Isn't technology a wonderful thing?
When it works.
Are you trying to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I can help you with that.
Okay.
Kevin, you need a clone.
Yep. Where are you? Where's your meeting?
So, Mike, what you're looking for is just approval of that reorg chart and the budget associated with it?
Right. And actually, ELU will need to approve this as well because it impacts them. It's actually their budget item, because the Reed's current position is in the land management budget. So ultimately, we'll need their cooperation as well.
Is this the same one you gave us at the last meeting?
Yes.
Oh, because I can go back there and get it myself.
Mike, so let me get this. Reed's wages will all come out of the park from now on, then you're saying?
No.
So where are we gonna come up with the parks?
No, he's just referring, can you hear me? Adi?
Yeah, I can.
He's referring to
Yeah.
not Reed
No,
in
I
person,
was just-
but Reed's position. Reed currently is in, well, explain to Adi what's going on.
Right now, Reed's position is, and I don't know the history on it, it is what it is. Reed is more parks than he is conservation currently, but for whatever reason, that was in the land management budget. Those monies will be moved to the parks budget to align with the revision of the job. So the parks budget will be getting more money.
And land management will be down. Or going up, yeah.
Adi, you cut out there. We missed that.
He was worried that, we kept talking about Reed's position instead of just the position.
Right.
The conservation position is in BLM, and then the new position that we're looking for,
Right.
that money will be funded without having to ask for levy dollars.
No, well, new levy dollars. We're-
New levy dollars.
Yeah, so
Right.
essentially, we're just shifting a position from one budget to a different budget. No changes.
You ready for a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the reorg chart and the budget associated with it that Mike has presented to the committee this morning.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Oh, wait, discussion, I'm sorry.
One quick question would be
Thank
when
you.
this goes into effect as well.
Sorry.
Provided it gets approved, well, it can go into effect, Monday, or the end of the month.
I did just want to make sure there was that
Right,
parameter was put on as
Does
to when it starts.
ELU meet Wednesday or something?
tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow's Wednesday. Yikes.
So a couple of comments about this. I like it. I love the idea. I love that you guys went outside and, thought about this from a whole perspective, and now we're not hiring, and all of those things are excellent. So great work. Couple of things though, when I was looking at the organization, I'm understanding that Haley current, I gotta get to the proposed. So the county conservationalist will then become a supervisor, correct?
It currently is a supervisor. Supervision
Who
position.
does she currently supervise?
She doesn't supervise anybody. She would be, move into that position.
Oh, I see, because that was,
It's currently vacant.
it was Charmaine before.
Right.
So what I don't like about the title of a county conservationalist is that does not tell me that that is a supervisory position. And I know that that's just a silly technicality, but could it not be county conservationalist supervisor? So that it's
We could,
clearly
sure.
designated as such?
That's just the traditional title throughout the state in the history of
But
conservation.
not every conservationalist is a supervisor.
In the state.
What I'm saying is, I'm not, I'm
Semantics.
fine with that. But I'm just saying, and again, I'm not for one to say, hey, we've always done it this way. I'm just giving background information. Traditionally, the county conservationist does have supervisory responsibilities. That doesn't mean we can't call it something else. But ultimately, that probably should happen in an ELU meeting. But I'm
Okay, fine, fair.
that it doesn't change anything. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it doesn't change anything. The only thing I'll say is that for somebody who's a committee member coming on, who doesn't work at the county on a regular basis, doesn't necessarily know through that title that that is a supervisory position,
Correct.
and that can become an important
Correct.
point. So if we call it what it is, that's
Yes.
helpful for those of us who don't work in the environment every day.
I'm totally fine with that.
And as long as we're trying to be clear, I don't really get development services when it's just zoning underneath there. Do they
I
they
believe-
do things other than zoning?
I believe you're looking at an outdated version. The
Oh,
current
okay.
version on the screen
Well,
says
I
planning
asked-
and zoning.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You told me this was the same, the one we got in July, so I just
Well,
pulled it up.
okay, I misspoke.
That's all right.
I was
Okay,
dealing
good,
with the
because,
technical issues.
okay, great, because that was confusing to me. All right, good, so, thank you.
My only other comment would be is that if we can delay the effectiveness for just a little bit, because we do have some HR things that we'll have to do behind the scenes when it comes to the different moving around of positions. So, I mean,
So potentially.
September 1?
sure. that works.
Right, agree.
That way we can have a farewell party for you from our committee.
I'm like,
Oh,
Well, to be after the September PTED.
we never
Oh,
felt well for
God.
our outgoing corporation council party first. Sad news.
no.
All right, so then, any other comment? I'm sorry, Jeannie, I'm just taking over.
I need to have the
Go right
motion-
ahead.
Should we modify the motion to include a September 1 effective date then?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to,
And that our motion only deals with our portion of the org chart, not the ELU portion of the org chart.
so that's your amended resolution, so
Two things.
I need a second on the amended resolution? All, okay.
Any discussion?
Any discussion on the amended resolution? Does everybody get it? Okay, so can we vote on that? What do I have to do about the first one?
You just clarified.
Oh, you
it.
just clarified it, okay.
so
All in
technically it's a
favor,
clarification.
say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion carried. I hope you're asking for this meeting to be a little bit later in the morning when I'm more alert. Thank you.
She just sleep.
I didn't have much sleep this weekend fighting with a badger and her babies.
Go up there to go on vacation and not.
Okay, I gotta go back to the agenda. What's next on the agenda?
Can you pull up?
I don't know. I
Because
don't
I'm
have it up.
back in the July meeting looking.
2024 budget.
Okay,
Because I'm obviously
Who's
not
that to?
sharing the screen.
Mike, you're up
Thank you,
next.
Rick.
It's Mike.
Mike et al. Are you good with being a supervisor? Okay, can boss.
Oh.
Who's your supervisor then, Haley?
Haley.
Okay. Well, he's in charge of everybody. All right,
so
we're
on
up to Mike
budget.
now with the budget.
All right, so this year's park budget is, it's not apples to apples from this year to last year because of the movement of the parks position to the parks, or the parks position from the land management budget to the parks budget. So essentially here, what we're, last year we had a little over 65,000 in a levy amount. In 2024, it's over 146,000. Of course, that's salary, benefits, healthcare, all that kind of stuff. So the levy is increasing by $80,803.71. If we take out that kind of position to kind of compare it apples to apples, the levy, actually adjusted levy amount would be reduced by over $9,000 or 14.7%. So there is budget savings, if you're going to compare the budget without that position, there is budget savings in there.
It disappeared.
Did you? Was looking at the line items on the budget and see that we currently had budgeted for $22,000 for professional services. And for 2020, and I see we've only used 2,600 of that so far. So 2024 budget is $10,000. I guess what professional services is that typically covering?
Some of the plumbing services, opening up the park, hot water heaters, various things. What else are you?
Yeah, the annual startup and close up from the plumbers. This year we also have the new pedestals in the campsites. That bill has yet to come in, so that'll be under that as well. So basically what Mike was saying, basically any types of plumbing, electrical, those types of work.
I think
is
if
covered
we-
under there.
So like contractors essentially,
Contractors.
people.
Exactly.
Porta potties would be, for Ashley for the arts, right?
Right.
Would come out of there. Additional porta potties if we were
We
going to
do
have
have
that.
that, the new driveway going in as well, right after the festival. That would be under there.
So decreasing it considerably is going to be okay.
Well, one of the things we're looking at past history, and one of the things that Amy really brought to the table, she brought in the three-year
Three-year
average,
average.
and that's really helped us determine our budget to have that information. We hope it helps you too. And so we've kind of been consistently more along the lines at that 9,000 number. So that's why we feel more confident about that number.
Okay, perfect.
A lot of infrastructure changes were made this year. I don't foresee those happening next year, but the annual startup, close up, day-to-day things should be covered just fine under the 10,000.
If, the discussion I would have, if we go to winter operation, is there enough money in there for plowing and access and all that in that 9,000, Mike? Because we're adding another season potentially to the park usage.
And that's something, that would be a reason to increase that number. Yeah.
We need a couple of grand, do you think, or go to like 11,000 or 12,000, something like that?
12, 13, probably to be safe.
Would the highway department do the plowing?
They certainly could.
But I'm sure they would charge us back their hours and all of that.
Yes, we would have to pay them.
Wouldn't having the highway department do it still be cheaper than having a private contractor do it comparatively, do you think?
With
I
the
would
other
think.
projects that we've had out there, a lot cheaper.
That'd be the way to
The
go.
new
If we
gravel.
did be charged back, I'd rather be within the county and it'd be less.
Where are we with making a decision about operating the park year round? I think that's an important
Wasn't that made last meeting?
Was
It
it
was
made?
made last week or last month.
So we are going to operate it.
The county board, I think, if I remember right, gave the green light.
This committee did.
This, I don't
Oh,
think it
this
went to
committee
county.
did.
Yeah.
This just
Yeah,
committee.
just this committee. It doesn't need to go to the county board.
Okay, so we decided to operate year-round, but this budget isn't reflecting that additional expense.
That probably should be upped to account for snow plowing. That's the big issue there in snow plowing.
And that's always a big if, like what, well, and how much we had to increase highway based on
Yeah.
plowing last year.
For sure. But we should see increase. We're thinking that snowmobile clubs and so forth will be using the park in the winter and have additional dollars being spent in Trempealeau County, right?
They
That's
will
what
be
we're,
snowmobiling through the park.
so,
There's no trail that
Right.
goes to the park right now.
so what would we
Close
be, like snowshoeing, or what would we be looking for?
Snowshoeing. People like to winter camp. There are a lot of people
Cross-country.
like to put their tents up in the winter camping.
We have
Yeah,
It'd
cross-country
be pretty
skiers.
primitive though,
Yeah, the majority of it will be just the trails, the recreation there. There has been, with the new coordinator position, we've had some winter events, like the done some bonfires, s'mores, that kind of thing out there, maybe around like a lunch or something. I guess whatever possibilities, should we decide to go ahead with the rec pond, there's potential for ice skating, that kind of deal. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but there's always possibilities of winter activities out there.
Okay, so this is step one. I like
We
it.
can have like a Hallmark card of people, picture of people ice skating there.
There you go.
So the other budgetary item that just sort of jumped out at me when I was looking at this is called capital outlay equipment. It looks like in 2022, there was $8,000 spent. There's not a 3-year average because there hadn't been prior use. 2023, we had a $10,000 budget, and now for 2024, we have a $17,000 budget. I guess I just need to understand what's falling into there.
Yeah, currently one of the key tools we use to maintain the park is a UTV, two-seat UTV. The current one we purchased it used, and it was a lower end model, and we've had some issues with it this year. So we would like to purchase a new UTV to replace that. So it's one of the key tools we have to maintain the park.
Sure.
And Reed can talk more about that if he likes.
Yeah, this season, well, every season the UTV has had issues and it's been down. This one more extensively. We actually just got it back. I was starting to get a little bit nervous because we got the festival coming, but it had been down for about 3 weeks. It was work that we can't do ourselves. We try to fix as much as we can at the park ourselves, but obviously we have to bring it in, and we go through D&D there in Arcadia. Not saying we have to stay with that particular business, but an upgrade. It's kind of like the lawnmower. This past year we purchased a new lawnmower. It's just time to have an upgrade on the UTV. It is definitely our most used tool at the park. It can get places that the pickup truck can't, especially
Sure.
the fact that the pickup's only 2-wheel drive. It's very valuable. It gets used every single day. So that's the reason for the increase in the budget there.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the budget?
The other thing that's a part of this, we increased revenues by increasing the rates for Ashley for the arts, and I think there's an attachment in there.
I didn't get any of those.
It was with you just have to scroll down, like it's 110 pages when you open the agenda.
Right there. It's on this big screen too.
Oh, it's never fully loaded since I've been here.
Gotcha.
I only get the agenda and the circle keeps going and going and
And I
going.
think-
I wonder if your computer needs some sort of an upgrade because ours are like that's loading. I would go to IT.
Dave, can you scroll down a little bit more? I think it has the total revenue, or okay, whoever does. So we get about $3,000
Okay,
more in
there we go.
revenue. So we have those opportunities there. But that's the big part, is upgrading some of our equipment so we can maintain the park. We're increasing revenues some. And, you know, so,
On that reservation system, you're aware that Camp Spot is doing that increase automatically on September? So if you have to, you know, take that into consideration and make sure that you make that notation so the consumer gets that increase right away?
Right, the Camp Spot themselves they're increasing their take, correct? Yes.
The whole thing, though.
Okay.
So, yeah, so
Yeah.
you're gonna you'll need to make that adjustment. And, you know, and I think we all need to take a look and see if Camp Spot's the right option for the future.
I agree with that.
Because that's
No
huge.
doubt.
That was huge. That was a,
What was the increase?
I think it's, oh gosh,
What was it?
what was it? I mean, it was fairly substantial. And the issue is it's a lot of there's probably 35 reservation systems for campgrounds. And it's a common bait and switch kind of thing, you know, where it's like really, really reasonable, and then all
sure.
of a sudden, and of course now they do it in September when the campgrounds are still going, you know, and
And they don't want to
and
change
they're
in the
busy,
middle.
and they can't change in the middle.
They're a little,
So it's
Yeah.
a little, you know, obviously they're not gonna do this in January when it makes sense, or December.
they want to make their money, which suck it to us, right? Yeah.
Right. So just something to, not a big deal, just something to keep your eyes and ears open on.
but overall, too, you know, this budget also allows for, you know, we've got, you know, so I think it's a pretty good budget. And if you do want to increase that professional services line, you know, we're
Oh, it
certainly,
makes sense to do that, to
We're-
allow for plowing.
we're open to that. So if someone wants to make that motion or to include that in the motion when they adopt, that would be helpful.
When we adopt the budget.
When you forward the recommendation on it.
So overall, at the end of the day, we are anticipating $146,078.71 for PTED for 2024, right?
Correct.
Does this have, I think there is dollars out there that is in a rolling account that moves forward every year to year?
The
We
non-
have a
yeah,
non-lapsing.
The entire budget is a non-lapsing account, correct?
So none of this goes back to the general
Right.
fund if there is.
Never.
So what do we currently have for funds in?
We were not given those numbers. We can kind of give you an estimate, I believe.
We
but-
do get that information at the county board. I just don't recall.
Well, we've had difficulties getting that reserve, the reserve fund number. We have that issue at the department level.
That comes from Paul, right?
Comes from Paul. Paul said they're not ready yet.
It's not ready yet. So we don't know exactly how much money's been.
But here's the thing, we can give you a rough idea, and that's probably, I believe, aren't we probably about 265? And part of that $265,000 includes about, $10,000 to $20,000 in donations that are being, and we'd have to, I think it's in that $10,000 to $15,000 range of donation money that's set specifically for specific purposes at the park.
Which is why exec finance needs to adjust that policy regarding, there's a policy that says you can only donate $1,000 and that it can't be for specific things. And I brought that up to them that as far as the park goes, many donations are for specific things, as well as in the ADRC. We get money donated to the ADRC for very specific programs. So I don't know if it's on their agenda to address that policy, but needs a change. Otherwise, if people want to give the park $10,000, they have to do it in increments. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
so I'll go upstairs and talk to John about that after this meeting, but.
Light a fire.
Quick question on the seasonal rates for the park. Does that include, on the electric sites, does that include electricity on that seasonal rate? Or they pay separate for electricity, I would assume?
Those rates would include the electricity.
Are they pretty low, you think?
Oh, they're incredibly low. I would recommend that we take a look at metering them, you know?
Sure, the experience that I've had with folks from, that want to stay seasonally though, if, I've had a lot of people turn it away. Most,
$1,800?
yeah.
You gotta be kidding me.
I mean, because majority of people that are there for seasonal are in the area for work. They're not there for recreation, so they're looking for the cheapest thing possible. I don't know where they go from there. A lot of them end up just staying in a tent. But that's just the experience I had. I mean,
My recommendation would be to do a little research on that and really be sure about that number, because I can tell you it's off.
How many seasonal rentals do we typically have in a year?
1 to 2, if that. A lot of times it's just monthly. I'm in town for 3 months. I'm working on the highway, and then I'll be leaving. That's usually the types of long-term folks that we have. And like I said, there's never been anybody there just to recreate. It's always just in the area for work, that kind of thing.
Well, I would assume that a park should be to recreate, we'd want to recreate.
Sure, and we can certainly look into that, for sure.
Any other issues with the budget? I'm looking at you, Dawn.
I'm sorry, I don't fully understand the levy versus the non-lapsing account. I don't understand how that works. I'm not saying anything's wrong or right about it. I just don't understand if I'm needing to levy $146,000 and we have money in the non-recurring account, how does that work? Can we not use the lapsing account for operations? That has to be separate?
One of the reasons the non-lapsing account, this was like in the last, since I've been on the board, that the park money became non-lapsing, is for things that happen. Like, part of it's in the non-lapsing account. It will be, if we get that grant, which we haven't heard from yet, we have to match that $140,000 grant. You had to get a new water heater. We have to make our driveway ADA into the park. So it's used for those kinds of things that are unforeseen. Or now that we've got this park plan, there are things that we may use that money for, instead of saying, okay, we need to have a tax levy to build the Gaga game ball.
Capital improvements.
Yeah,
Those
it's
kinds
for
of
capital improvements. It's like the county has a capital improvement account that's that's there for things that we need to do.
Perfect. Okay. I just know that it's gonna, I need to understand it because I know that we are going to have questions come up at the full county board when it comes to putting all of the budgets together, because we're going to be held to the gun to figure out where to cut money. So I just need to understand how that works.
And it's hard to figure out one of the things I know that is going to come to be an issue with the park is our septic system. And just if we have to install a new septic system in the future, that's going to be like a lot of money.
The part of this, to think about this, one of the reasons for the master plan was essentially to create to kind of show what our plans are to develop the park.
Yes.
We have plans to spend it. It's just, the master plan is there. We're going to get there. We're on our way. So.
Got it. Okay.
But overall, again, we've actually, if you take out the parks position, we've really, apples to apples from last year to this year, we have a 14.7% reduction.
I know, but I happen to also be on ELU.
Yeah.
And I know that that doesn't. So that's, I'm just,
Right.
You're not taking our money for E ELU.
no, but with the position changes and things, one impacts the other. And so, but it's fine.
Okay. Anything else?
Smart lady.
You have all your questions answered? Okay. So there was a motion to approve this budget, correct?
No,
Oh, God, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, is there a second to approve the parks budget as
Second.
presented to us? All in favor, say aye. Or is there
Aye.
discussion?
Wasn't there discussion on the 3,000 professional services?
Right.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Make a motion to approve with the addition of $10,000
I know Mike said 12 or 13.
It's at 10 for
It's
professional
at 10 right
services.
now.
Oh.
You wanted to move it to 13.
I can't imagine it would cost, you just have to plow the driveway so people can drive in and park.
Highway department, I don't know. You know what happened over there?
Just put a little buffer in there. I would recommend, if we do get interest in usage, there may be some additional costs.
Right, and you can't, and people have parked on 93
That's-
and snowshoed in, and that's not good.
No.
That's why the
do that every
driveway
year.
has to be plowed, I know. The driveway has to be plowed so that people can get in and park.
You don't want
So the
to-
driveway and the parking, maybe half the parking area, that's all that needs to be plowed in the park.
Are the restrooms gonna be open or are they winterized and shut down?
Yeah,
So
they're
what's there
shut
for?
down. There's outhouses that you can use,
That's
right?
the only
I
thing
get
that's
why.
there is just
Yep.
outhouses in the
Yep.
winter.
That's in the wrong.
Tough it up,
And
buddy.
there'll be some minimal cost in updating signs, because right now it does have open, close dates and things like that, so that's minimal.
So then a motion to approve the budget with an additional
5,000?
Sure.
$5,000 to professional services for the year-round park maintenance.
Really good motion. That was good. And who seconded that motion? Oh, Kevin. Any more discussion before we call for the vote? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do we still have audience? Oh, yeah, yay.
Still with us.
We can't see you, but we can hear you. Okay, now, let me see your agenda. I'm like,
Let me go
I'm
back
on
to the top.
page 1,000 here of this.
So now are we on to the park fees, or was that part of the budget that we approved? Okay.
I guess it's the park budget, but if you want to make a motion, I guess you could make a motion to adjust the fees for Ashley for the arts
For next year?
for 2024.
Do we need a motion?
We don't need
If
that
you don't need
today.
to.
No, we can do that
That's part
later.
of the budget.
Okay.
Yeah. Pond proposal summary.
Well, economic development budget.
Where?
Oh, we need-
Economic development budget.
We still have that budget.
Yeah, that's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda. You're down on number 12.
Yeah, that's my report.
Oh,
We're
we're,
still on budget.
For some budgets.
Okay, 2024 budget, it doesn't specify.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I see.
I'll get back to my budget here. I have to go back to page 1 from page 1,000. Alrighty. So you have something to say on this?
I probably will, but I'm gonna defer to Mike
Okay.
to start this out.
Sorry.
Alrighty, the 2024 budget, the big changes here today that we have healthcare increases due to moving from single family. We have step salary increases. And then also in here, we continue looking to grow tourism marketing. We have a $6,000 additional addition to the advertising budget. And we've really gotten a lot out of the continuing education programs with some of the conferences that Dave has gone to. So that's the source of those requests. There is an increase with this budget proposal. And if Dave wants to talk a little bit and pitch in this as well, he can.
Yeah, I think Mike covered it pretty succinctly there. The thing I would point out is we are going from 14,000 to 20,000 in marketing and advertising. And I think last year, when we had the $19,000 federal ARPA grant for destination marketing organization, that really made a difference. It really helped drive more more visits to our website and other things like that, and our Facebook presence. It helped us grow our direct, email marketing list that we use. And this year, with reduced marketing funds, we've seen a little bit of drop off on that. The year is still going on, and I'm making some adjustments midstream. I started out with a $4,000 contract with River Travel Media this year. They were the ones who did our $20,000 campaign last year, and I'm probably going to be extending them a little bit to carry us into doing some fall marketing, since that's a real growth opportunity, I think, for this area in particular. In the summer, campgrounds and the hotel rooms they fill up, and we can try to bring more people here during the summer, and we do. But in the fall, when that starts to decrease, it's a real good opportunity for us to promote more growth. And of course, we're getting into year-round marketing now too. We've got photos for all 4 seasons now, and we'll be really hitting the full year destination for Trempealeau County. But that's the biggest increase, is just increasing that. I am going to be at a county board meeting on August 21st to talk more about the the direct visitor spending numbers that we had, and then tying that back to how that impacts local sales tax collections. Because I think strategically, and for those other county board members who are listening that aren't on the committee, this is your preview, is I think we really do drive increased tax revenues, and we're definitely not investing all of those back into tourism promotion and marketing, which could grow us even bigger. But I think we need to recognize that, and even if it's not literally, figuratively, remember to carve out that money to keep the program going. As you can all guess, you can do 1 year of enhanced marketing, but if you don't keep going at it every year, you drop back into the pack. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get recognized by our own right as a tourism destination. In the meantime, we've done a lot of partnerships with Winona, La Crosse, Eau Claire.
Neighboring, yep.
Yep, to try to do that, because they've got bigger budgets and they do regional marketing. And those are good strategic partnerships to have. But we need to get to where we can, do some of our own stuff. So that's the biggest thing. And then Mike mentioned, increasing a little bit of money for travel and conferences and stuff like that. I mean, I think that's, every time I go to a meeting, I get some really, really outstanding ideas. I don't know what else to say. Any questions on the specifics?
I do see that we had not previously budgeted for any continuing education, which is interesting, so putting something in the budget for that is a good idea.
It was coded differently.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we tapped into other stuff, and as I mentioned to Mike and Amy when we were putting the budget together, I think it's just good to identify that, and it won't, so that gives some options for 2024. My certification will be up for renewal in 25. And, to stay as a certified economic developer, I will need to do some continuing education prior to that, so it might be something next year, might be the following year. I have to go to a national conference sometime in the next 2 years, and I don't know if that'll come out of this budget. We'll bring that back next year, so.
Looks like the vast majority of the budget change in this is all employee related, other than a little bit more in advertising. I'm good with it. Make a motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Is there any more discussion on this particular budget? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Thanks, Adi. Gene, are you still there?
Was Adi opposed or was?
No, he's just, it's delayed.
It's a delayed computer.
Okay, thank you. We've lost your names because we're sharing screens, so. Okay, are we done with the budget?
Yes, we are.
Yay.
Okay. Oh. Is this changed because we went to PDF instead of, is that why there's 1 million pages?
It's
Okay.
because there's so many proposals in there.
Yeah, okay, all right. We're done with the budget. Park fees we're gonna deal with at a different date. Now we're on to you. Pond proposal summary / discussion possible action. And we're handing it over to Reed Lally for those in TV land.
Sure, at the last meeting, the committee requested that a little more information was provided prior to making a decision on hiring an engineering firm to design a rec pond out at Petrick Park. The proposals are attached, and then we put together a memo as well. I hope everybody had a chance to read it. I'm kind of just giving a summary and overview of the 3 proposals that were turned in, and you know, we did some background, some checking and whatnot on some of the contractors, and they do hire engineering firms to design these ponds. Plus, we spoke a little bit with Corp Counsel and got some of the perspective from the legal perspective on it. You can see there's 3 main points as to why it's important to have these plans engineered professionally. So, does the committee have any questions on this? I'm sure you do.
I have a question between the 2 contracts that met the requirements of the RFP. In my mind, Design Studio, I didn't even look at it because it didn't meet the requirements. But the Roth and the SRF, I looked at the contracts there. And I do see that the SRF was wanting to, or was proposing potentially increasing or including additional design into the their proposal.
Right.
And that by doing so, we would potentially achieve some cost savings down the road.
Correct. Yep.
But I do see also that your team is recommending the Roth bid. I just want to understand why we wouldn't consider or think about doing the other with the additional pieces of it that would, I think, in the end, probably save us some dollars when it comes time to move on those other projects.
I guess we were looking more at what was going to happen right now with this pond design. Like you're saying, we saw that, we looked at it. We just came with Roth as our recommendation at this time. I mean, we didn't know if we wanted to commit that much money up front right now.
Well, I think
It was like
8,000.
8,000 to 10,000 savings if we proceeded in committing to them to go beyond just the pond design.
They would also do the bridge and, shoot.
That was the bridge feasibility study, and let me see, I'm trying to find it here right now
too.
real quick. Man, I've reviewed these things so many times, you'd think.
Well, I just reviewed it last night. I should be able to come up with this, and I can't.
Yeah.
It was the bridge and the,
God, why can't I get to it?
oh, it's such a long thing.
Oh, probably setting up the future of potential snowmobile trail coming through and the design for the parking lot.
Yeah, parking lot was part of it, as well as, shoot. A lot of pages.
Mm-hmm.
There are,
I just want to make a good decision. Like,
I agree.
I think we need to go ahead with definitely getting the design, like, at least in my opinion, but I do.
Here it is.
So,
The cost savings would be $8,506 for a combined fee of $59,365 by combining the following tasks: kickoff meeting, construction site visits, bidding, service, and mileage. But let's see, it'd be phase 2 here. See there again.
So they would do swimming pond, parking, and playground design, as well as the pond design, and then the bridge, although I don't see that right off, but that was in here somewhere.
It is, yeah. It'd just be the feasibility study.
And is a feasibility study for a bridge even necessary?
Oh, I would say so in that particular place.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
floodplain, it may not even, yeah.
Oh, I think they said that they would look at 3 different spots as part of this bid
Right,
as to where
right.
they could put it. Like, I want to entertain the idea, right? I mean, are we gonna, if we're gonna need to do all of these things down the road anyway, is there a reason not to go with this other bid in that instance?
You are absolutely correct that when you bring people back in, it is so much more expensive. And I can tell you from somebody that did it backwards, that
Right.
that was very expensive to bring those folks back in. Just the little basic things of simple mileage and what those folks make an hour once they're there.
Right.
You know, I totally agree.
If there was a snowmobile trail over the bridge, would, because it's either snowmobile walking trail, walking bridge, does DNR have, I mean, would our grant from them for snowmobile, could it increase to cover a snowmobile bridge?
That was one of our thoughts but you would have to have a system with signed contracts that are extended far into the, minimum 10 to 15 year contracts with the landowners on the east side of the river.
Right, and you'd have to get a trail to there, which there currently doesn't exist.
That's correct.
Basically, one of the things that I think you're bringing up is that feasibility study talks to all of those issues.
Right.
correct?
That's
Yeah,
right.
oh, if we could have a bridge, a snowmobile bridge across the river there, it would be awesome. But you'd have to develop trails to get there,
You would.
which don't currently exist.
The feasibility study.
Right.
And the majority of that feasibility study, I'm gonna guess, is dealing with floodplains and ordinances and things like that. So, but like you say, it's all encompassing under that study.
And landowners play, all of our trails are based on landowners letting snowmobiles on their property.
That is correct.
Yes.
The idea for paying for the whole bridge is if we can make that justification for parking for snowmobile trailers and connecting to a trail, then the snowmobile grant bridge program would potentially pay for 100% of
Right.
that bridge
That's
across
what
the
I was-
river.
But the first step that we would have to do is
Figure out
feasibility
if
and
we
all of
could
those
do it.
things, right? So
Yes.
in the absence of an argument to go with Roth, I think we should go with the other one and actually get the full spectrum.
I think some of those other aspects too, getting playground design done, that really adds to the amenity of the pond right out the gate then. I agree.
And then, no matter what you decide to do.
We're ready to do it.
The full board says, okay, for some reason, pond's too much, or this is too much, or whatever, you still have that feasibility study, so that you can at least see, okay, here's where we can put the playground, here's where we can put, the bridge, here's where we can do some other things.
Right, here's where we can engage snowmobilers and have the DNR fully pay for that bridge.
So at least you get something out
DNR,
of that
right.
design, or you can potentially get nothing.
Yeah.
But I want to be respectful. I understand that the Parks Department was recommending Roth, and I guess if there is
Right,
a valid reason to go with them as opposed
I
to.
think it
cost.
was they're both quality firms doing quality work. It was just more along the lines of the lowest more or less a lower cost.
So you weren't anticipating we were gonna vote for the higher cost?
I got to be honest. I
Well,
really
it's not higher cost necessarily, it's higher value.
Yeah,
Correct.
right,
Correct.
right.
an
I agree.
upfront cost.
I think I agree with you both.
I really, actually, honestly like the proposal from this other group better because it's very detailed, and I see that it also includes, I think it's weekly or bi-weekly email
Bi-weekly
updates,
yeah.
and a lot of other things that are appealing to me.
I like it too. You have something to say. You did all this research, so speak up. Now's your chance, because you're leaving us.
This committee.
Well, we are still waiting too on the results of the grant.
Right.
That was supposed to come in July. Now they're saying, when was that, Dave? late August,
Late
early
August,
September.
early September.
And then
So-
in late August, September, they'll move it to January.
Well,
And
so
I've
it's-
played this game,
I just want to
yeah.
make that aware that committee that we haven't been awarded the grant yet, but
But we
obviously,
still-
Why are they dragging their feet anyway?
well, there was some staff turnover, I know that, but then again, it is,
Yeah,
there again,
it
it's
has
government.
nothing, it's not related to staff turnover. The grants have been scored and I think the recipients selected. And what I understand from DNR is they've sent those over to the governor's office and the governor will be announcing them. And so it's just fitting it into the governor's schedule for announcements.
Hopefully sooner than later.
Now,
But
typically, I'm sorry.
No.
Typically, the engineering services are about 8 to 15% of the proposal. Obviously, you add that second half, and that would be after this initial grant. It would be for something in addition to what this original grant is trying to
What's the
accomplish.
what's the total amount? I'm not on anywhere near that page for SVR.
Well, they're an
SRF.
additional, they're
SRF.
50-some thousand to do the full scope.
59,361.
To do full scope, but if we just limited it to the pond, they were only a few $1,000s more than Roth.
Okay.
Right.
And we have,
We have money.
we have money, so I think we should. I
And-
think someone.
And really what this accomplishes, it's thinking, by doing this, getting larger value, this is about implementing the entire master plan and not just looking at the recreational pond. That's what you're saying by going with that proposal.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
We're focused on the recreation pond because the land is only deeded to us before it reverts back to the.
Well,
previous-
either
we can do
way-
other things
either
with it,
way,
though.
Yes,
In the meantime, short term.
right,
yeah.
either way, it gives us options.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, the other way, you just get one piece of it.
And then we would have to hire out if
And
we
you're
just
gonna have
chose not to
hire
go
out
with it.
again.
I totally love your
So
idea.
in the absence of a argument to go with Roth, I actually will make a motion to go with, I'm sorry, now I don't have the name.
SVF.
SRF, which
SRF.
stands for, yeah.
What does it stand for?
For the full scope
Right.
of their proposal.
Because we need to move, and this is my
I'll
favorite
second
thing
that
about this
motion.
committee is that we think ahead. We're planning for the future. You second the emotion?
I did.
Motion, all those in favor?
Any more discussion?
I'm ready to have this move forward. Is there more discussion? Is there any discussion, any questions, any issues? Speak now or forever hold your
Didn't the
peace.
previous committee start this master plan?
Mhm.
Yeah. Two committees
Yes.
later, yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Addie, Jean?
Yep. Yes.
Oppose? Okay, motion carried. Go, yay!
Go
I'm
forth.
excited.
Get plans.
Go forth
Okay.
and
3
plan.
years.
I'm super excited too.
I am
Yeah.
very excited.
3 years
This is the
later.
only committee that thinks about the future.
When I was a county
Oh,
board of
okay,
elect,
good.
I went
Yeah.
to
Let's-
that first
yeah.
proposal back in the Wanik Center and I was excited. So.
Okay,
Let's move on. Yeah.
I gotta scoot back up to the agenda here.
We're on 12.
You are next. Parks and Conservation Specialist report.
Okay, I can make this brief if people are in a hurry.
I'm not, so.
Obviously, preparing for Ashley for the Arts. We do have the new pedestals installed in the new campsites, or in the campsites out there at the park, out in the field. We actually did have to, you guys saw the map at the last meeting, we actually created a few new campsites with electricity, so. Those are in, we're actually just waiting on Riverland Energy the inspector was supposed to be there yesterday, not sure if that happened or not, gonna find out today. Then they can turn the power on, so
And hopefully you'll be on before the arts.
I need it to be on before the Arts.
No.
I wonder what his excuse will be for anything.
So that's the status of the electrical pedestals. So they are moved from, everything's done now from the lots down Trempealeau. We do have the new driveway going in to the cloth shelter after the festival, because this would have been the only kind of window week. We had science camp out there last week. That was UW Extension, and we also had staff. Haley helped out with that. So we obviously couldn't do it last week, and this is too tight of a window for them to kind of plan with what's going on the road. So we're just gonna wait till after the festival. Let's see. Other than that, those are basically only the new things that are up to date. Nothing has moved with snowmobile. This is obviously a time of year when we're just starting the snowmobile yearly cycle. It starts July 1st, so it's been going about a month. And those meetings pick back up in September.
Is there anything on the heater for the class center?
No, I'm gonna make, actually, I had a phone call from a gentleman who's gonna make a donation that he wants to put in some fans in the corners of the class shelter and then put in radiant heat. So his recommendation was to do a different type of heating
And he's
system.
gonna pay for it?
Not the heating, but
Oh.
he'll pay for the fans and
Okay.
some of the electrical install that's
Okay,
involved with the
awesome.
heat. So that's on my list too, to make some phone calls today on that.
Okay.
Did we
Then we
get,
don't need to have I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, I interrupted you.
Okay, we don't need to have another tank then installed outside. So I figured I'd look into that option.
Who's
Cool.
willing to help pay for it? That's good people out there we have.
Right, it's
People love the park.
they do, and it's the number was somewhere around that $1,000 to $1,300 mark. So
Okay.
there again, dealing with that donation policy.
Yeah, I'm
it'll
gonna go
probably be-
right to talk to John after this meeting.
It'll probably be 2 different donations. So
Yeah, hopefully they can change that. It's
So
ridiculous.
it makes more of a pain for us.
Did we get any new used refrigerators out at the park by chance?
no.
Okay, so
Not
that,
recently.
okay, that's fine.
Also working with the some of the folks that like to ride the horses out there. They've actually been in touch with me quite a bit. They've kind of resurrected the trail that runs
Oh,
from
awesome.
the crossroad down
Nice.
through Ed's land and then through the Elk Rod and Gun, hooking up to the park. So
Beautiful.
Yeah, and they want to install I don't own horses. I don't know what they're called. I just see them in
A pole
Western
so
movies.
so you can tie your
Where you
horse
can
up
tie the
for
horses to
camping
it.
or whatever,
And,
yeah.
and they also want to have start some sort of a log or something so there can be record of who's using it when and how often it's getting used
Oh,
and
good.
some way to have, a donation type policy as well. So in the works with that.
Donation or
That's
something.
good. Awesome.
So been positive moves there with the, for lack of a better
Trail
term, horse
riding.
folks. So that's
That's
been
what we're
fun.
called.
It's great to see. It's great to see involvement. So
Cool. Okay.
Quick question on the park. I am, I'm a UTV fan.
okay.
Why can we not have UTVs in the park?
From what I have been told in the past, there were some issues with driving too
Is it
fast.
causing damage to trails and stuff?
Well,
There
yeah,
are
on the
any
yard
trails.
and
Yeah.
Is it could someone drive down the park road and park in the parking lot and leave them right there? Would that be legal?
Yes.
it
Yeah,
is,
they're-
but I don't think they can legally drive them down 93
You
to
can't
get
go
there.
down 93. Only county roads and township roads.
Now there are some people that I've been working with, like for Ashley, that one of them asked if they could. I take that back, not Ashley. An event that somebody wants for next year, if they could bring a golf cart in just to haul some people that have mobility issues from parking areas to the class shelter, and I said that was okay. I think we should be working with people that need
Oh,
that
for
type
sure,
of situation.
for sure.
But as far as like recreational riding, I've said no to everybody. That's been the policy since I've had the position. So
And there isn't a trail there. There's no snowmobile trail to get there.
Are
And
you-
the
yeah.
farmers won't let ATVs, UTVs on the snowmobile trail. Well, there's planting on them now.
was your suggestion maybe the current horse trail as a place to ride an ATV? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm just suggesting it's something that we could look into. It's definitely an up and
It's
coming.
a dangerous thing. My daughter was hit on her horse by someone who shouldn't have been on the state trail by Osceola.
I'm not saying bad things don't happen, but I can definitely say that in the area, we've started to open up
Sure.
some of the roads to UTV
We
use.
need you to.
And it is a
That's a
very
huge
big tourism
That is a
thing.
conversation we've had over, and since we made that first step with getting county roads
Everybody
and
else
township
involved.
roads, we need to
City's
we need to look at developing ATV trails within this
We
county. I
do.
mean, when I was in Douglas County this weekend, and they are so respectful, the drivers up there, because they've been doing it forever.
I go up
There's
north.
just- They're everywhere,
I
and
go up
it's-
north at least twice a year, you guys, and it's huge. And the people that I run into there are very respectful. I'm
Oh,
not saying
yeah.
that that's true of all, but I think that for a future agenda item, perhaps we ought to be discussing more
We
about.
have
Yeah, because
And
you had
to
access
reduce-
through the land up there, the same as the horse trail. Now, there again, horses and ATVs. But,
They don't mix, but so
but
there would have
it
to
could
be.
be access up the crossroad there, then
Right.
you're all of a sudden you're open to anywhere.
We need to look at how we could
I
better
know
use our.
when some cities that were reluctant to open up the roads, the biggest argument came with some
The
people didn't
busing.
like the noise, but they're gonna have naysayers out there.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that could be a future agenda item for next month.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
you're welcome.
Throwing it over to Mr. Carlson for 12, Economic Development Tourism Manager Report.
All right, so it has been a busy month. Lots happened since we met 3 weeks ago. I did meet July 24th as part of a Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, or WEDC, strategic roundtable down in Sparta. It was run by the Office of Rural Prosperity, and I am happy to report that I think WEDC is really onto something with, creating and staffing and giving resources to that Office of Rural Prosperity. I've had really good working relationships for, going on a decade now with WEDC. But WEDC, and somebody made this point in this roundtable, 10 years ago, WEDC's, answer to most things was, try to land the big economic development project with, several hundred people and throw a lot of money at it in terms of tax credits and stuff like that. And now it's really kind of reached a tipping point, and the focus is much more on small businesses and creating entrepreneurship. And with this Office of Rural Prosperity, it's really bringing, the tools and resources of WEDC and getting them out into rural communities. So Beth Haskovic, the director, and her staff were there, and I spent considerable time putting the bug in the ear about some different ideas for programs that would be helpful in the rural areas. For instance, them helping capitalize, a locally controlled revolving loan fund for, business startups and second, next stage growth businesses. Then I saw all of those same people 2 days later, last week, on Wednesday at this U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Partners Network Forum up in Osseo. And this is the one that Buzz has been mentioning at last couple of meetings. And I went to that, and Mike was asking me yesterday a little bit about what Rural Partners Network was about. And the USDA they actually had I think an application for membership in this Rural Partners Network, but they designated something like 30 Rural Partners Networks nationwide, and some of them are maybe, 1 or 2 counties, and some are like us, are 6 or 7 counties. We're in with Buffalo, Pepin, Eau Claire, Chippewa, I think, and Dunn, maybe Pierce County too. But anyways, these rural partner networks actually are then made eligible for some resources, hand-holding from some of the federal agencies, including USDA. And there are some grant opportunities coming down the pike that will only be made available to members of a Rural Partners Network. So the forum last week, and what those are, still kind of murky. There were representatives from like the U.S. Department of Transportation there, HUD, USDA, FDIC. It was kind of I'll be honest with you, there were more bureaucrats there than there were like people like me, who were there to try to get information. But, it was good information. That was up at the Grand Occasions Event Center. I will be going to the State Fair next week to distribute Trempealeau County visitor information.
Yay.
We'll actually be part of the Wisconsin Ag Tourism Association's booth there. We're going to help them staff that. That works out well because that way, we don't have to find, a ton of volunteers because we got some volunteer help. So it'll be my wife and I doing that next week. And that's next Monday. So if you want to come down to the State Fair a week from Monday.
Last year we sent some volunteers on behalf of the county.
We did, and Kevin was one of them.
Yeah, that's fine.
And George.
And honestly, we got a lot of good feedback from that. We met a lot of people and handed out a lot of brochures and made some good contacts. So that's something we'll be doing. A couple weeks ago, I did attend a lunch and learn in Galesville. It was sponsored by the Downtown Galesville Business Association. Lori's probably been to some of those. Chamber may have been involved with that too. But we had like 2 or 3, newer businesses, and just talking about different resources that were available to them. Small Business Development Center from UWL was there, Carrie Bork, a couple of lenders, and then I was there just to talk about, some other, technical support and financial resources that they could access. I've met with several individual business referrals in the last month, businesses that were, looking to start up. One
Have
of
you been
those,
to the little coffee shop in Strum yet?
I have not been there yet,
It's cool.
but I'll get there. I did meet with Lori a couple of weeks ago about visitor's guide, and I feel like I've got to just gather some additional information to get moving on that. Especially, I did see that Langlade County, which is a smaller county like us, has a visitor's guide, so I'm working on setting up a time to chat with them just about, how did they get started with it? What is their budget? How do they handle that? Do they handle that internally in terms of selling it, or do they have somebody else go out and sell it? And then both of our partners in Winona and La Crosse also do visitors guides. Eau Claire, interestingly enough, does not do a visitor's guide. They got away from that several years ago. Yeah, and they do everything through their website now. So that's another model. I don't want to dismiss that as a model, but it's.
I don't think you should dismiss that, but I think you really need
Yeah.
to do the research on that, because
Yeah, right.
we're just
Right.
we're not quite there yet.
Yep, no,
Maybe down
They
the
want
exactly.
that
road, but not
print.
right now.
Yeah.
They still want print.
The couple generations below us are totally digital.
Yes, but
They don't even know how to read. I met a kid who didn't even know how to read a map the other day.
So anyways, I'm working on setting up those meetings to just try to really get a sense of a budget, because it's really critical, especially for a first year where we're jumping into something new and seeing what's the critical mass, for instance, of advertiser support that we need to launch a guide, print it, get it distributed so that it actually has value. And I think once we do that the first year, from there on, it's just going to be really, really simple.
Right.
So, I did attend Farm Technology Days, formerly Farm Progress Days.
Oh yeah, and the Dells.
It was down in Baraboo at the Badger Steam Engine
Right.
facility. Idea being that there's been some conversation, mainly by me, about taking a look at, would Trempealeau County be interested in making a bid to host that at some point in the future? What would be involved? That kind of thing.
We
I
have
did,
the Farm Progress Days Park.
I did learn some. Yeah, we could host it out at the county farmland. Anyways, I did find out apparently that that Baraboo is trying to make a pitch to Farm Technology Days to have it there like once every 3 years or something, kind of as a semi-permanent thing, which would be going against what they've done historically.
Not good.
Yeah,
Bad
but
idea.
they think they've got a good facility down there, and they do. They've got a lot of land right available for parking. The interesting is they didn't, unlike a lot of Farm Tech Days or Farm Progress Days that I remember going to, is it was not held on a farm. So they had to take people on, on a farm tour, on wagons and stuff like that. So I'm not convinced that, holding it in one location,
No, it's a bad idea.
that's got a couple hundred acres of parking like they did is a great thing. But anyways, that's for something down the road. I did meet a couple weeks ago by a Zoom call with somebody from the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, Community Reinvestment. And Community Reinvestment Act requires all lenders, as part of their profits, to support local initiatives that strengthen the community. And so this person, I think it was sort of in reaction to a specific bank audit. She didn't say which one, and it doesn't really matter. But what I used the opportunity was to convey that, we have been talking about approaching banks to make donations to capitalize a revolving loan fund locally. I think that would be an excellent thing, if we were trying to capitalize a revolving loan fund. Because I think going to the county board to ask for, money, 50, 100,000 to try to help capitalize a fund would be a tough sell. But it would be maybe an easier sell if it was part of a partnership with some local lenders, so.
Some counties have used ARPA funds for that
They
very
have.
purpose.
And as I understand, ours are pretty much
No,
committed.
there's still some not accounted for.
Yeah.
That's debatable.
So anyways, it was just an opportunity,
Yeah, it's a good
I think
idea.
we've had 3 opportunities in the last month to talk about the need for a revolving loan fund locally. How would what work?
How with a revolving
Oh,
loan, how are we paying that back? Because it's,
yeah, well, I mean, so here's just a off the top of my head concept, although it's not so much off the top of my head, because I've thought about this. So WEDC has a program called Capital Catalyst, and it's a program that I used when I was Economic Development Director in the city of Whitewater. And they will it's a 1-to-1 match. So if you come up with, let's just say, $250,000 locally, WEDC would put in $250,000. You've now capitalized a $500,000 revolving loan fund program. I think Capital Catalyst still has a requirement that the initial capitalization, 10% of that be used to give out grants, because they want to provide not only, money to establish businesses, but ones to help get businesses started. And that makes some sense. But anyways, so WEDC puts in the match, and then it's like a typical revolving loan fund. Businesses apply, you have a review board, you review, and basically I think the way a revolving loan fund in this case would function would be similar like one that Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission has, where it's intended to not, be the primary funding source for a business startup, but to provide gap funding. Because a lot of times private lending can get 80, 90% of the way there, but you got to have that, close that gap.
I understand now. I
Yep.
wasn't getting the
And
concept.
anyway, so it is, but the nice thing like about this concept with WEDC and this Capital Catalyst program is as you loan that money out and then it gets repaid back, once it's all been loaned out and it starts to get, WEDC doesn't want their money back. So we capitalize a $500,000 loan fund. You make all those loans out, you get money paid back, that's yours as a local. So, the question is, how do we? For additional loans. Yeah, it's not ours. I mean, you have to keep it in that program. We can't take that and shift it to, building something somewhere. So anyways, that's a concept, and it's not something, that's not a short-term, like 3-month project. Yeah.
It's not totally foreign to the board. We lent money to the snowmobile clubs to buy new growth.
Yeah.
And we did a private loan.
Yeah, but, it is work, like, if we start up a revolving loan fund program, that's additional work. But I get a lot of calls from new businesses or, small businesses that maybe want to grow, and they're like, what does the county have for money? And we don't. We can refer them to Mississippi River Regional Planning to that RLF, and I do, but there's a lot of small businesses that, even if we had, some $5,000 grants to give out would be really helpful.
That little gap in between what they can, sometimes makes a difference, especially really small or just starting out, that can make a difference.
Yeah. That's what I've got. Other than that, it was kind of a slow July.
Sounds really slow. Any questions for Dave? Okay. Future agenda items. Okay, you, Dawn.
Yeah, so couple of things, ATV and UTV trails. I'd like to see us discuss whether that happens to be priority for the next agenda, doesn't matter to me, but at some point down the road here. And then I don't know if it's really a future agenda item. It's more about our meeting date and time. Is this an appropriate time to bring that up?
Sure.
I am struggling with a new project work that I'm doing to be able to attend this meeting.
You're dealing with over there.
And I had wondered if there would be any opportunity to change the meeting, either the day of the meeting or the time of the meeting. I can make this time or this day work, but I would need it to be an afternoon meeting, which I know is not necessarily everyone's preference. Like I could do a 2:00 on these days. Otherwise, I would need to, if we're going to want to keep it in the morning, I would need to look at a different day of the week. Ideally for me, Mondays, but Mike and I talked a little bit, and I think he was thinking Thursdays, which would be better for me than Tuesdays.
Mondays would be great for me.
Monday is good for you?
I've been trying to go through and see who meets the first Monday of the month.
Exec finance.
Yeah.
Is the only one I can think of.
What time do they meet?
8 o'clock, I think.
Oh, they're really early.
Can you pull up the county board agenda, your,
So that would bump, so then we wouldn't have this room, right?
right. Well, if we normally meet, we meet the first Tuesday, we could be the second Monday.
Could be.
What do I have?
Is that
Oh.
property?
Well, that's property, and I have human services the second Monday.
I guess the easiest would be to leave it on the same day and move it to the afternoon, but I don't know if people would want to do that.
I was thinking the afternoon didn't work great for Bob, but
Would be a little tricky for me. I have another meeting at 3.
Okay.
Thursday mornings?
What time Thursday? 'Cause generally I work.
I don't normally have anything the first week on a Thursday. It's the
Thursday would be good if it was early, like.
We could keep it at the same time if we could just move it off
Like
this
I'm saying,
Tuesday.
Yeah,
if it was
Thursday's
even if I had to
fine
attend
with me.
virtual, it'd be easier on a Thursday because even if I do have to work on a Thursday, it's usually not until the meeting's over, close to over, that would work then. So
Thursday's okay. Is
I
it
would
okay
just
with
wouldn't
you
be in
guys?
person.
What about Gene and Adi?
Right. Are they still on?
You got
Adi,
Gene on, I
Gene?
think. Adi's gone.
Jean, are you on?
What? I am. What time are you talking about on Thursday? I'm looking at my schedule.
Okay, we're still looking at 8:30, but on the first Thursday of the month.
You're not on mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The first Thursday of the month at 8:30.
A meeting I go to that day. But I mean, as long as there's a quorum for you guys, I could call in if I could.
I could be virtual. I would have no problem doing it as long as I have the warning. I'm good.
Well, Gene's in another meeting at that time, so.
No.
So what date would that be? Would that be like the September 7th?
The 7th, yep.
Dawn, are you talking about a one-time or ongoing?
No, ongoing.
It's not just temporary because you're remodeling and, okay, it's the ongoing, okay.
Unfortunately, if I still have to continue to make this work, I just don't know how regularly I'll be here.
Why don't we do the Thursday at 8:30?
Then Gene can't come.
Oh,
And I don't know about Adi, he's off, and I don't know about Bob or Buzz. Could we make a decision at the next meeting when more people are here? Cause yeah, I don't mind changing it.
We can do, well, staff will pull the committee as far
Oh,
as
thank you.
alternative meeting times. and
It's
dates.
better for you than me to send out and have a quorum going
Yeah,
on
we
the
can do a
email.
little poll.
okay, so for next month, what is the date?
We'll meet the regular,
The regular time?
Which is,
September 5th, the day after Labor Day.
Fine.
Kids will be in school, all of our lives will be different, ugh. Summer's over.
yours depressing.
Okay.
I know, I love fall, it's my favorite time.
Are you crazy?
So we're good, we're meeting and then we'll discuss changing it. You guys are gonna poll the committee and look at other meetings so we can have this room. Okay.
And then for future agenda items, I guess, Do we want to set a time frame, or do we want to wait as far as what that subcommittee would want to come back to us with whatever that recommendation is?
Yeah, we got it. I don't know. Do you have the county agenda? When does property meet? Oh, that's your schedule. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess maybe we just need to have it on the agenda to get an update.
Right.
From where we landed with the recommendation
Okay.
for the subcommittee.
The county board chair.
Yeah, I'll go talk to, it'll be going to their committee on Thursday and then property committee. John's on property, so then he can just appoint 2 people from each committee.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the meeting is adjourned at 10:50.